Why is Tulsi Gabbard in Puerto Rico? Tulsi Gabbard right now is in San Juan, Puerto Rico. Why? Tulsi Gabbard is in San Juan, Puerto Rico because there are massive protests that are taking place. People using everything from horses to motorcycles. They're shutting Puerto Rico down. By estimates, 500,000 people marched the other night. 660,000 voted for the governor. Now, the protests are in response to a few things. Basically, the governor's administration was caught with massive amounts of corruption, not the governor himself. However, at this point, it becomes somewhat untenable for the governor to govern, and not just corruption, but also chat logs. This is called Chattergate. Tulsi Gabbard is in Puerto Rico for solidarity and, yes, pandering. But not entirely pandering. I can't be entirely cynical in this. I'll explain what I mean. Welcome to the Soapbox. My name is Jamarl Thomas. This is the Progressive Soapbox. And yeah, a way too long intro, but ultimately, there are massive protests that are going on right now in Puerto Rico. Now, AOC, Julian Castro, Ricky Martin have all called for the governor to step down. They've called for the governor to leave. In fact, there is even a hashtag. Where's the hashtag? Where is it? Well, there's always a hashtag. But essentially, Governor Roselio, everybody is saying resign. Bipartisan, Republican and Democrat. They're saying resign. I don't know what the governor is going to do about this, but if you have that many people on the street and it's drawing that much attention, you have problems. So Tulsi Gabbard cuts a video in San Juan. Listen, let's hear her out. And then I'm going to be a cynical SOB. And then I'm going to be a little bit less so. So this is Tulsi Gabbard in
too long
Puerto Rico.
Under this kind of. Good morning, everyone. I am here in San Juan, and I'm asking you to join me in calling on all the candidates who are vying for the Democratic nomination for president to come here to Puerto Rico and to show support for our fellow Americans here who are in dire need of support. Now, the current governor and his administration here are corrupt at their core. And the people of Puerto Rico have been suffering for far too long under this kind of corruption. And whichever one of us is elected will be the leader of the Democratic Party, so it's important for us to let Democrats know, to let all Americans know that we will stand up against corruption and for the people, even when that corruption is within our own ranks. So come down here, even if it's just for the day, and stand with the Puerto Rican people and their righteous cause.
So, to add a little bit more to be specific, as you know, Puerto Rico was suffering after the hurricane hit Puerto Rico. It essentially damaged the island. The island was crushed. A Republican administration gets in, slow walks funding, as if Puerto Rico is not a colony of the United States and thereby us being responsible for them. You end up with this kind of disaster capitalism. Even within the context of that disaster capitalism, you still had a slow moving of the island trying to get back up to speed. And then you find the people in the administration get busted. 6 people in the administration of Roselio gets popped for corruption charges. Now, the non-voting member of Congress that represents Puerto Rico is also calling for Roselio to resign. This is bipartisan. Now, the Democratic lawmaker who chairs the House committee oversees Puerto Rico called on the island's governor to step down after 6 people, including Puerto Rico's former Secretary of Education, were arrested Wednesday on federal fraud charges. Former Education Secretary Julia Kletcher and Angela Avila Morero, former head of Puerto Rico's Health Insurance Administration, were arrested on 32 counts of fraud, theft, and money laundering, along with 2 businessmen and 2 sisters who worked as education contractors. In the indictment, prosecutors alleged that Keller stole government contracts through corrupt bidding process to unqualified firm run by Glenda Ponce Mendoza and Maya Ponce Mendoza, with whom she had a close relationship. All right, so that breaks. You guys are suffering, and your government is corrupt. Meaning, not only is the United States slow walking the money, but also the money that you are getting, the reason why the services and the reason why it's so slow getting back up to speed is also because of your own government's corruption here on the island. That pissed people off. The second shoe to drop were chat logs. Now, the chat logs, what they're calling Chattergate, essentially had the governor in chats with, I guess, friends of his, being degrading towards women, being degrading towards other people in the island who needed assistance, and even joking about dead Puerto Ricans from the storm. That didn't go over well. That did not go over well. Not only are we suffering, not only is there this disaster capitalism, not only is the president of the United States lying constantly, our own government is corrupt. And not only is our own government corrupt, they're laughing at us while stealing from us. If you're looking for something that invests enough energy to get 500,000 people on the streets of Puerto Rico, you have found it. My wife and I, very first trip together outside of mainland United States was Puerto Rico. Her and I had just got my new software job. I had been out of work for a bit. I had just got my job. And in just getting that job, it just so happened that the trip landed almost the same first part of the month where I had got the job. So when we were on this trip, our funds were stretched to the hilt. We had a ball. I was in the camp of not even necessarily wanting to go because I like to have far more resources. But nevertheless, at that point, we had an amazing time. It was our first trip together. It showed us that we could travel together. But not just that. The island was awesome. Not only was it a beautiful island, the people there were amazing. In my experience, anywhere that I've traveled, that I've enjoyed traveling there and enjoyed interacting with the people in those various areas, when hard times and bad things come to those places, I feel some kind of way because I have somewhat of a connection to the people, meaning I could put a face on the individuals that are involved in the process. And there are several people who were awesome that we were engaged with that, you know, I don't know what happened to the various areas to which her and I visited. I do not want any harm to come to them. I don't want harm to come to pretty much anybody. John Bolden is different, but you get my point. So I feel some kind of way when I see them going through difficulties. If the people on the island have this much gusto in them, they've been doing this constantly. And like I said, motorcycles was the other one. In fact, there was an entire thread showing all the ways in which these guys were protesting. And the thread went like 10 lists long. And it's not just San Juan, by the way. All across Puerto Rico. They're pissed off. Now, technically, I've never answered the question of why Tulsi Gabbard is there. I've told you what is going on there. And I've said that Tulsi Gabbard is there because of this. But really, what Tulsi Gabbard is there for is because there's a fire. If I stand by it, when people come to look at the fire, at the very least, they'll see me right here with it. It's not so much that, you know, I'm thinking that there is no tether here, meaning that she doesn't care entirely about it. But politics has certain gross incentives. When Bernie Sanders hugs Ilhan Omar and then makes a photo of it and then sends off saying, send Donald Trump a message and send me cash, that looks bad. It looks bad. It looks like you're trying to hone in on this fire, which you are, because you need to do so just by virtue of the process. She is trying to get on the debate stage. She is trying to get any level of publicity that she can get. And she's been getting a ton of it by being in Puerto Rico, meaning her idea, even though it's like, why on earth is Tulsi Gabbard in Puerto Rico? The idea had merit. It's worked to some degree. AOC has commented on this. She has ties to Puerto Rico. Rivera pointed on this. He has ties to Puerto Rico. Castro, ties to Puerto Rico. Rick Scott, being governor of Florida, ties to Puerto Rico. All of these people, Ricky Martin, all of these people have ties. And so it makes sense for all of these people to be fully engaged on this particular issue. Why is Tulsi Gabbard here? I'm not hating on her for it. She's supposed to do it. It's her job, but it's every much of her job to do this, every bit as much as Kamala Harris's job to hit Joe Biden on him raising segregations. I'm just saying all of this is part of politics. There's a fire. There's a car accident. If I stand by the car accident, when the people come to see the car accident, I'm going to be standing here. Somebody may say hi to me. If I get 3% in the polls, I'm happy. That's why she's in Puerto Rico. Now, to be fair to Tulsi Gabbard, I can't be entirely cynical. If you take a look at this, this is back.
The chairman of this.
This is back during the time where Jordan was still at TYT. This is Standing Rock. And this is Tulsi Gabbard at Standing Rock. Whatever I want to think of this, because I'm a cynical SOB when I see a presidential campaign that doesn't seem to have any really tether to Puerto Rico, going to Puerto Rico, to me it comes across as somewhat of a spectacle to get attention. However, she was in Standing Rock. She did go to Standing Rock when many of the other candidates, i.e. Warren, wouldn't even bring it up. So I can't take too much credit away from her for that. Shout out to her for going to Standing Rock, and she gets a lot of credit for that from a lot of lefties, because we were hollering at the height of our lungs on that issue, and mainstream media didn't care about it. We did. Tulsi did. Shout out to her for that. Now Tulsi is in Puerto Rico. No, I don't think the impetus is the same. But I do think there is something in her that does care about these things. But in this, I got to be honest, I think this is overtly political. There's 500,000 people there marching. That's a ton of people. That's a ton of attention that is lavished on Puerto Rico. And if you're lavishing that much attention on Puerto Rico, and I am a congressman, and I just so happen to be running for president, and I'm saying the governor should resign, maybe you'll talk to me about it. And maybe in talking to me about it, I can get some other ideas out about my politics and so forth. She's doing her job. She's doing her job. Shout out to Tulsi. Not to mention bringing attention to the corruption that was in Puerto Rico in and of itself. I don't know how that governor keeps his job. And what I mean by that is they didn't indict the governor. They weren't looking at the governor. They were looking at the people who were under the governor in a sense. But they look at this as, dude, all of this was under your nose. And you could say that you have the zero tolerance for corruption and everything else, but all of this was under your nose. And beyond this being under your nose, the chat logs was vicious and vile. It's utterly vile. If you're going to be that vitriolic, make sure nobody can see your messages. In this particular case, I don't know how you continue to govern. Well, one more thing. On Tucker Carlson asks her about this. And one of the things that she brings up, nobody else brings up, she brings up these kind of homophobic messages that was part of the chat logs. She brings that up. Tucker Carlson doesn't bring that up. And I suspect part of the reason she's bringing that up is because that's a weak point for her campaign. If she could find something to bolster that she's going to bolster that. It's the same reason that Bernie Sanders is so, happy to call Donald Trump a racist. He needs to get the black vote. He needs to show the black vote that, look, I am still on your side. I need to get that every bit as much as Joe Biden. You need somebody to be aggressive advocate. I'm your guy. Because Sanders is not overly worried about alienating the white male vote. He gets that vote. So he can be more open-mouthed and going after Trump on that very specific issue. Meaning, he can up his bona fides for the African-American community while not necessarily losing the demographic that he would need to win the election, something that Hillary Clinton could not do. Look, the real question that I think people should ask after me saying all this is, wait a minute, where's the actual policies? Where's the actual stuff that they're supposed to do, the governance? Where's the actual getting to the task? And that's there, but that's there after you get elected. Getting elected is the first point. And that is a lot of optics and taking opportunities where you can find them. By the way, the media's reaction to Donald Trump putting out that tweet, Donald Trump's reaction to their reaction, meaning to use that as a campaign thing, it's very possible that when Donald Trump initially put out his tweet, he had no idea that the media was going to react that way. He sends out tweets all the time, and they flip out and, they go away. He may not have known that hysteria was going to take place. But what did he do? In the same way that this fire is taking place here now, and Tulsi Gabbard takes the opportunity to go, he uses the tweet, and he runs with it. A lot of times, people are not coming up with this stuff in advance. A lot of times, they're using the positions that is available to them in order to pivot off the positions. Sometimes people look back on it and make it look as if they were doing it on purpose. Oftentimes, it's not. It's opportunity. Tulsi is in Puerto Rico for A, draw attention to the issue, but B, also opportunity. It doesn't have to be one or the other. It could be both. So I'll leave this here. If you guys enjoy the content, please feel free to share, like, subscribe. You can always support the PayPal or Patreon. Thanks all.